Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's Public Eye. My name is Fumi, and it's a pleasure to spend the next hour with you. Today, we are going to be talking about community development. I know you've heard them talk about community development all the time, but once upon a time, it was argued that the reason why you don't have electricity, water, and so on and so forth, traveling as far as everybody's villages and community is because we don't have enough states. So we created more states, and we created more states, and we created more states. The situation did not seem to get better. In fact, it appears to be much, much worse. What do we need to take development from your village people to my village people to all our village people? And why does development have to be from out to the in? Are we saying that development itself cannot come from the community level to the federal level? That's our conversation today, and we're going to get into it right after this break.
Development projects in Nigeria are often carried out without community involvement or consultation. This approach often leads to projects that do not meet the community's needs, do not gain their support, and can even lead to conflicts.
The kind of changes I want in my community is like good roads, good health center,
rural infrastructure when it comes to road infrastructural development.
Proper sewage system, water coming out from a centralized water storage system, because a lot of people have to rely on independent boreholes.
Well, I would like to communicate with the local government. If I know who they are, if they make themselves accessible, if we know where to find them, we'll definitely go and communicate to them and tell them our pains and our gains. But oftentimes we don't know them. We don't even see them. We only see posters.
Actually, the local government I am is around the Balindi. What I noticed there is that it is very hard for us to access our local government chairman. Like for me, I have called him several times. Several, not even once. Not I send messages, no reply.
For now, we hear of them, but we don't see them. They're like music.
So if only we have that grassroots programs or an area whereby we can send in our messages or drop messages or emails and letters for them, it will make sense. It will definitely make sense.
The federal system of government in Nigeria gives a lot of autonomy to the states, which can make it difficult to coordinate and implement development projects on a national scale. So it's up to the local government and the members of the community to come together to implement changes.
And today we are going to be talking about development from the community level, especially what we call here local government level or local governance out. And my first guest is eminently super qualified to have this conversation with us, because joining us now is Honorable Kalejaye Adeboye Paul. He's representing the Ajeromi Ifelonu constituency at the Federal Legislative. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad I have you here today. Because when something is not working in my local government, who am I supposed to go to? The rep, state, the rep, federal, the state governor, the local government chairman. Who is responsible for what?
Your question is very simple. All of these people you have mentioned, that's why you call them representative. They are all accountable to the people, right from the local government level, which of course is the closest to the people. And then they are the first port of call. But then, mistakenly, we go to the chairman of council. Everybody goes to the council. Who do you go there to go and meet to complain about such issue like you have mentioned? The first person to go to is to your counselor. Many of us do not know who our counselor is, but we have forgotten that the first person that is closer to you is your counselor. The counselor will take your issues to the chairman of council, and then the chairman of council will look at it. If it's a problem within the local government purview, there are three responsibilities, three tiers of responsibilities or powers that is enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution. You have the residual power, you have that in the concurrent list, and you have that in the exclusive list. The issue you have mentioned fall between the residual and the concurrent. What do I mean by residual and concurrent? Residual, it falls within the local community. Concurrent because it also falls within the state purview. And why I say it falls within the state purview, it depends on the canal. We have the primary canals, we have the secondary canal, we have the tertiary canal. The tertiary canal is the one that connects from one local government to another. The primary canal is the one that really affects that particular location that may not necessarily flow into other secondary drains. So depending on where the problem is, but I tell you that we have a department in the local government called the Department of the Environment, which is directly responsible. The same thing applies in the state. We also have the Ministry of the Environment, which is also directly responsible. Then, of course, you also have the federal. Also, you have the Ministry of Environment in the federal state. So any of this can solve your problem.
So I use that as an example to break it down so everybody understands, because this could be any community and it will be exactly the same thing. Now, the challenge often is, what we found out is that when the allocations go to the states, aside from the allocations that go to the state, there's also the IGR generated from the states. All is collected, and the chief executive officer of the state is the one in charge, at least on a state level. And the allegations is that the money does not go to the local governments. And even when it goes, that they don't have autonomy over the money or what to do with the money.
Okay, one, if it does not go to the appropriate quarters or appropriate channel, then there will be the system collapse. So to think that the allocation that comes from the federal does not get down to the local government is not correct. You have the federal allocation that are shared among the states and the local government. Yeah, it is true that the money of the local government passes through the state
and the state sometimes seizes it.
No, let me explain to you. We have what's called JAC, Joint Allocation Committee. The Joint Allocation Committee is composed of all the chairmen, treasurers, all the various local government, the state auditor general, the finance, the office of the, the office of the state treasury, and of course, the permanent secretary in the treasury office. They sit down monthly to look at it. Where the allegation comes from is this. There are some responsibility, like I've explained, that is both in the residual and concurrent lists. For instance, you talk about the environment. You find out that the environment, the various refuse that we generate are carted away by the state through an organization or an agency that is called LOMA, Lagos State Waste Management Authority. So it is because it is cheaper for you to acquire equipment that will cut away this refuse collectively than for each local government to continue to buy equipment to cut away. It becomes more expensive. So there is an agency of government that's called LOMA that cuts away refuse Don't forget, some years back, before the advent of Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, we have heat of refuse. They are no longer there. When they will still have them, they are just pockets of locations, and they don't last for more than 1 or 2 days. So in such a position where you have a state agency carrying out a responsibility for the local authority, definitely at the end of the month, when they do the jack, there may be the need for you to also pay up those agencies. So the money is paid from their allocations to various agencies, rather than say, local government A, go and pay this. So some responsibilities that are carried out by the state authority on behalf of the local government, which of course, like I've said, may be beyond the capacity of local government to carry out, as a result of cost, logistics, and what have you. So in such a case, they now say, oh, they have amputated the local government fund. That is not correct. But everybody sits down together to look at it, to ensure that your local government is not shortchanged. So I can tell you authoritatively, I don't know of any other state, but I can tell you in Lagos that there is no such thing that exists, that money does not get to the local authority. And as for control over the money when it gets there, the local government has a parliament. That's why you have the councillors. And the councillors also sit to legislate over a number of things that are within their purview. So they have some level of autonomy. But I tell you, today we don't have what's called local government autonomy. Every attempt by successful administration to grant the local government authority was by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Local government is in the third schedule. And because it's in the third schedule, it has a double jeopardy. What I call double jeopardy. At one sweep, it says it's, a creation of the state. At another state, it said it's a third tier of government. So if you see local government as a third tier of government, then they should have autonomy. No absolute autonomy anywhere. Even the federal government does not have absolute autonomy.
Yeah, but
relatively. So they should have autonomy. But then because it also is seen in another schedule of the Constitution as a creation of the state, so it still becomes somehow, responsible to the state. So today, the National Assembly, the current National Assembly, I know even the previous National Assembly have passed on their own to have the local government authority. But then the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria demands that in doing such a thing, granting such autonomy, there must be 2/3 of the number of states in the federation to assent to such autonomy bill before it can be passed to law. So each time we have not been able to get the required number of states
to agree to
it.
Isn't it because of the same issues that those regional and local authorities, for want of a better expression, don't have real power? So what's the point of taking over something where you cannot do much anyway?
If you think you cannot do much, you see, they say what touches all must be debated by all. What you are doing in public eye is your own contribution to national development. So it's commendable. So if I'm a professor, I have professed all my life, and I still live within a community, why can't I carry and represent them at the council? I've seen it all. I can better legislate better. You don't understand what I'm saying? Because I've seen it. So the idea that because we cannot change it, don't let us get involved, then we continue to suffer the reign of idiots. So I think that until when we all get interested, not everybody will become a politician, mind you, but we must all be interested. Right. Many people don't even know their local government headquarters. Like I've said, many don't know their councillors. Many are not bothered. When things go wrong, they don't care. Because
they presuppose that from councillor level, especially at that level, the party determines who it is. So, for example, if I wanted to become councillor in my area, it's by force, so somebody at the top must be happy with me at the party that area belongs to. Abi?
No, not necessarily. See, the electoral
Not necessarily.
Reform, not necessarily. The new electoral reforms has helped a lot. You understand that in the current House of Reps, those of us who are new members are not less than about 70%. What happened to the old members? The new electoral reforms threw a lot of people away. You don't understand what I'm saying? We cannot continue this way. Things must keep on changing and be modernized. So we're seeing some level of changes. So those who feel afraid to join a political party of your choice at the grassroots, you must belong to a political, because we don't have independent candidacy yet. But then we could get there to have an independent candidacy so that you don't need to belong to any party. Look at what has happened in the last elections. Look at YPP. Look at what impact they have made. Look at SDP. No matter how you think. Labour. So what are we saying?
In terms of getting particularly young people involved in governance, young people and more women, would you say local government is a good area now to start flooding, and I use the word flooding, young people and women people into positions? I mean, you are smiling, but for me, it seems like a really good, it could even be something that a party campaigns on the basis of that. For this party, local governance, a lot of the people we are going to take as councillors, as chairman, chair people, in fact, chair people, not chairmen, councillors and all of that, would be mostly young people, young, educated people. Let's see what difference that makes.
Yes, you know why I laugh? Because you said the language you used, that was why I laughed.
Yeah.
You see, we must advocate involvement of more youths and more women. You understand? I agree absolutely. But I say
at the community level.
Yes, at the community level.
Yeah.
I agree absolutely. But I also say that when you're talking about young people, it's not just being young. Are you aware of the challenges of the youth of today?
What is the challenges of the youth of today?
See, we are grappling with a lot of issues. Grappling with drug abuse. We are grappling with people who are, there are a lot of unemployment in our youth. But how employable are they? How many people are really ready to work? I give you a practical example. And I swear as the Lord liveth, I'm on public eye, in the public domain. A young man walked into my place 3 nights ago at about 10:30. And when he came in, I was having some meetings. And I said, okay, young man, what do you... I was actually eating. Young man, what do you say you want to see? I said, but you see, I'm eating. Okay. I called one of my, go and attend to him. He said, my mother is asthmatic. He said, I live in your neighborhood. My mother is asthmatic. And I need to buy drugs for them. One of my men that were there said, okay, fine. Go to a pharmacy. This is my number. Go to any pharmacy. When they prescribe drug for you, send the account to me. I'll pay quickly. And when he left, I told him, my person that was there, I said, do you know that boy is lying? He said, no, he cannot be lying. I said, okay. Within 10, 15 minutes, he sent an account for them to pay this. I said, okay, go to that pharmacy. But I said, because if somebody is asthmatic, before he gets to my place, before he gets back, that person must have given up. I said, go on. When he went there was no pharmacy of that name. He called the number severally. The number was not answered. After the number did not appear till tomorrow. So what I'm trying to say is that our youth, it's good, but we must have a reorientation.
All right. I've got to take a break because what you have just said there, all I can hear playing in my head, my people are useless, my people are senseless, my people are indisciplined.
No.
But are there not older people who are on drugs? Are there not older people who are also doing Yahoo? Are there not older people who are also corrupt? It's the same thing they say about women, for example. Oh, if we put this woman here, she cannot do this. I'm like, all the men that are there, how many is useful?
You see, because you mentioned the youth.
Yes.
If you want to talk about other ages, we will talk.
Right.
We have not said that every other ages are excluded from the anomaly and for the menace of the society. But I'm just looking forward to the kind of use that we have.
I understand you are playing I'm playing devil's advocate because I want us to think through in terms of if there's like a crisis.
I will also tell you that why are the youths not doing well? Are we not to blame? Parents, we're to blame. So we all have a share of the blame. What kind of orientation do we give to our people? What kind of upbringing do we give to them?
Right.
See, my child of 33 years old called me as we were coming and said, Daddy, I said, I can't hear you. You better speak loud. I'm driving and I'm going for a program. He said, I want to tell you I want to find my way to the hospital. I'm having malaria. I said, so you 33-year-old, you call me because you have malaria? Do you need me to go to the hospital?
Did you say 33 or 13?
33. I said, do you need me to? I said, look, wake up. I said, wake up. Go to the hospital if you have to go to the hospital.
Yeah,
So-
you have spoiled your boy. It's like,
I didn't.
Is that this boy?
I will not.
Right.
That explains why I had to tell him. I said, grow up. It's just, I just want you to know that I'm not feeling fine. I said, look, me, who is feeling fine? I drove in the traffic for 4 hours and I drove a manual vehicle myself. Because my driver, the mother died, he went to bury. So I had to drive myself because I have a responsibility to discharge to the people to be on this program.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in that regard. You know, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a break because I was smiling thinking, you know, maybe your son is just saying I love you indirectly. And he knows that all these older people, they don't like hearing it like that. So that's his indirect way of just saying, Daddy, I did here. Because otherwise, anyway, let's take a break.
I had the strangest phone call today, Adrian.
I knew a dirty little secret.
This was another lifetime before I met you, Ada.
It's all lies, isn't it, Adrian?
There's some truth in it.
If your personal life is affecting your work and your colleagues.
If I had told you about my past, you never would have given me a chance.
That is not a decision for you to make.
It's good you came. You see, the Holy Spirit spoke to me about you.
I remember you.
We go way back.
Why are you doing this to us? I gave you everything.
This is a sin.
You're a coward. Get out!
Sooner or later, something must kill a man.
Welcome back, Publica It Is, and our conversation today is about community development and what will lead to the kind of change from the community up that can bring national progress. Earlier, I'd been talking to Honorable Kalejaye, and he has now been joined in the conversation by Director, Community Development Institute, CDI, in Abuja. He's flown in this to join this conversation. And CDI itself is a research and training institution that promotes the knowledge and practice of community development as the springboard for self-reliance and national progress. Mr. Andrew Ogara, he's himself a sociologist by training. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
I'm taking that word, it says the springboard, not a springboard, but the springboard. So that's to say that the only way to achieve national progress is to develop from community.
That's right. And thank you very much. And when we talk about community development, we're talking about self-help. That's why we say the only way. The help you cannot render to yourself might be elusive. You might not be able to succeed, but that help that you can give to yourself, that change that you think you yourself can affect, that is the change that is enduring. And so when we're talking about community development, how do you, as a people, work to improve your living condition? Basically, what we have had over time is where people wait for government to bring development to them. And then, but the fact remains that there is no government anywhere in the world that will be able to meet the needs of its citizens. It's difficult. And so what it calls for is for individuals to take responsibility, for individuals to wake up to the fact that they have to bring their own improvement. And so that's why we are saying it's the springboard for self-reliance and national progress.
Where I hear you, and it sounds really great.
Thank
Where
you.
there are laws that governs your engagement within your own, community.
That's right.
Because you don't live on your own.
That's right.
How then do you, and I give you a practical example. Earlier we were talking about some of the changes that need to occur in terms of how local governments are structured and how they are funded so that they can do the work, and also who goes into local governance.
That's right.
And Honorable Kalajai was making the point about, first we have to get people who are all people involved.
That's right.
To join at that level, not only wanting to be governors and presidents and all of that, but at that level. But then what about the enabling law itself? That is what the Constitution itself provides for. So he was talking about, the constitutional changes that's been proposed through the bill that's, been a little contentious about the local government autonomy. How much of it is the problem in your mind? How much of it is the people versus the system, the governance? How much can people do without the governance? How are you going to do development if you don't have the resources to gather together as a people to do this?
Thank you very much for that question. I want to give you a typical example. The former American president, Jimmy Carter, when he left government, he said he will fight guinea worm anywhere in the world. And so he went down to Ebonyi State. Ebonyi State was, they say, where many of the communities, they drink water from a spring that is infested with guinea worm. And then he went there to educate and create awareness through his NGO. And the people said, we have been drinking this water for years. We cannot change. We want to be drinking. He said, you have to boil the water because the germ that causes guinea worm is in the water. And people said no. Why? When you get a typical family, people are down with the guinea worm. What we are talking about is that we don't need any enabling law to get this done, for people to retain their health. What it needs is awareness and education. And I don't think there's any law in this country, Honorable, that will restrict people from improving their welfare. There is no law anywhere that will say, okay, many of our schools are dilapidated. If you see the studying environment where our children go to school, where they go to read, you won't like it. Now, what we're trying to tell people is that in that community where children are sitting on the floor to learn, we have carpenters there. We have people who do mercy there. We have all manner of, we have even people who are educated, who are outside the community. People can contribute their own quota to building a classroom, a befitting classroom. Everybody is waiting for government, and government is not responding. And so I don't think there's any law anywhere. I'm not a lawyer, but if it has to do with development, I don't think there's any law that will, forbid a people from, repairing their roads.
So what you are saying, and I think Honorable Kalajai, you also mentioned it earlier, that it seems that in Nigeria, the people are detached, that we are detached. We have a concept of government difference from the people.
Okay.
So that means that, unless they come and do it, it doesn't get done, even if it is near us.
Okay, I'd like to inform that, like he has said, there is no law prohibiting development and community relationship. But I also want to say that when I was special advisor to the governor on rural development in Lagos State, during our tenure, we passed the Community Development Association law. We passed it into law because we are saying that, okay, community just exists. We create community, we have them community development association everywhere. There was no law. We created a law and it was passed by the Lagos State House of Assembly, allowing communities to assemble, to relate for the purpose of communal development. And like he has also said, we're just not being realistic. If we are realistic, we're already doing community work. Wait, we provide our pipe and our water to drink. We drill our boreholes. And some of us, when we drill boreholes, we make a point outside the house. I do that in my own place. Everybody comes to fetch water in my place every day of life, free. You don't understand what I'm saying?
I do understand.
Because I realize that how much of the water do I need? And a few people are doing that. That's community development. So we're already doing it. But what we're saying is that
how do we scale it?
We need to scale it up by ensuring that everybody in a community also partake in communal activities. Don't forget the arrow system of the Egba land, the Lishabia Bumbuakala. You remember what happened to Lishabia Bumbuakala now? They were doing community work. Everybody will, when it is your turn, we all come. You want to go to your farm, we'll go and farm for you. We have lost touch with our naturality.
Okay, let me go on to the first. We have this thing we call social contract. Social contract was created out of the need when in the earlier society, life was short and brute. If I meet you and I like that you're pain, if I overpower you, I collect the pain from you. That was what life used to be in the olden time. And then people now gather and say, look, let's create a law. Let us get somebody who will mediate over us. And that was how government came about. We call it social contract. Now people say, government, come and rule over us. Provide our needs, especially social services. Protect us. On the part of the people, people said, we are going to submit to your authority. We are going to pay our service, pay our taxes, and then we're also going to volunteer when they're in terms of military, services. And that was the agreement, that social contract, and it became so. And that's why we have government today.
For us in Nigeria, is that really true?
Is
we did agree to
no, the people that brought government, of course, democracy we are practicing is not our own.
Isn't that part of the issue, really, at the end of the day? Because everything is kind of imposed on
even
the
language we are speaking is not our own.
So, which is where we were at the point of law earlier, what needs to change constitutionally. Because we can talk about development in terms of providing the basics on one hand. We can also talk about development that is geared towards progress, geared towards success on a massive scale. You know, that sort of thing. So that we're not talking about even just managing, but developing on a scale that can compete with anywhere in the world, where people can produce, specialized things from community up. From some of the things I heard both of you talk about, it seems that some of these things are actually even in the cultures, sort of like the age grade, grouping, the town grouping, the Yoruba ones too that they have in the Southwest. I'm sure that those in the North too. Isn't community development about using what already exists, engaging it one way or the other in the direction of develop? Because the example you gave post the Civil War is really vital, in the ways in which the Southeast came together to build things. Because the example you also gave earlier about children sitting on, on the floor, and nothing being done about it is very I've always thought it was, this is a community. I went to a community once and somebody was boasting that it could levitate. It would just disappear from here to there now. And I say, my brother, I'm sure you can levitate. Me, I'm not questioning you. What I'm saying is, why does this village not have toilets?
Wow.
Maybe when you build toilets, you can even be levitate
very well.
Levitate very well. Has about toilets in this community. So that concerns me, Because if you are able to build toilets for yourself, I suspect that you'll be able to also advocate for better behavior from your elected officials. Why do you think that isn't happening properly? Taking what is in the system already, the culture already, to make it, to direct it, to use it in the area of community development and change.
I want to say that community development has existed from time immemorial.
Yes.
It is deep-rooted in our culture, in our society.
Why don't we use it to leverage political power? Why don't we use it now to make changes from the community level? And changes is not just the things we get, also the things we demand of people who are put there.
Like I said, you see, every time we have election, people put themselves forward to be elected. And one of the things you hear them say, I will do this for you. Politicians understand the fact that people need development. Some of them don't have good roads where they can, by the time they harvest their food, they will be able to get it to the market. Some don't have, we find women and children spending so much time because they are traveling to a far distance to fetch water. A lot of man hour is lost in that respect. So all these things, students have they walk long distances to be able to, to go to school. And so we are saying that, and that's the essence of community development. That's one of the major focal point that I got the vision to say something about community development. What we do basically is to create this awareness. Even in Ireland, even in Europe, go and check, go and Google it. You see their policy on community development as developed as Europe.
Okay, let me assist him, or assist this sitting to say that why it's been difficult, because you said they are all embedded in our culture.
That's right.
Why have we not been able to grow it up and make it to be helpful?
Why don't we feel ashamed
if
a small village road cannot even be built by the villagers? Why don't we feel ashamed if a small community cannot build its own toilets?
One of the major reasons why we've not been able to do that is that we have been acculturated by foreign culture. Our culture has been diluted and polluted. And so, the policy of isolation has come into play. In the days as we grew up, you have a hamlet, you have a place where the father, the mother, the children, everybody coexist. It's not as we have today. What we have today are buildings that are isolated. You have one-story building, you have duplexes, and everywhere is fenced. So interaction becomes difficult. So we have lost every sense of our being as a people, as Africans. We've lost it. We have gone to imbibe other people's culture, the foreign culture, the culture of mind your business. That culture that we have come to imbibe has eaten deep into us and have prevented us from developing all these cultures that are embedded that we grew up with. Everybody has now become Mr. unto himself or Mrs. unto herself. So that's a major factor. But how do we get over all of this? I think
please, that's what I need you to hold, because that's what we want to go to. So how do we go from here to the next point? How do we get over that, where we become more actively involved in our community and governance going forward? I need to take a break. When we come back from the break, that's what we'll be talking about.
I had the strangest phone call today, Adrian.
I knew a dirty little secret.
This was another lifetime. Before I met you, Ada.
It's all lies. Isn't it, Adrian?
There's some truth in it.
If your personal life is affecting your work and your colleagues.
If I had told you about my past, you never would have given me a chance.
That is not a decision for you to make.
It's good you came. You see, the Holy Spirit spoke to me about you.
I remember you.
We go way back.
Why are you doing this to us? I gave you everything.
This is a sin.
You're a coward. Get out!
Sooner or later, something must kill a man.
point where we are going to involve everybody and we want to be solution focused. What we want to achieve is a situation in the future where development is driven from the community. Instead of people saying your village people, they do you, you'll be saying your village people is good for you, that sort of thing. So I'm going to start questions from this side.
So what I've learned so far, I learned about individual involvement in community development. And as they've said earlier, that there is no law that is stopping that. So in a situation whereby the community are trying to help, to develop their community, and there's a particular order coming from above or coming from the government that they should stop. That's because I've witnessed a lot of situations, especially in my area around Ijede, where this road was done to a particular point, and it was stopped even in front of a school. And the school now was like, okay, you can't stop the road here. My students are coming outside. Accidents can easily happen when the road is not well done. I guess they wrote a letter to the local government, and and there's no solution. So she said, okay, let the CDA come. I'm ready to contribute. Like, let me do this thing myself. I can't leave my students into this kind of hazard. And I guess the road commenced, and at a point there was an order from above that they should stop. So I don't know, is there any order or any law or I don't know that is governing that particular situation that we don't know about or anything. And another thing is, as our presenter said, Ms. Fumi, sorry ma, she said the villagers, like in a situation whereby it's just a small road cannot be developed by the villager, is a shame and all that. The villagers that are still battling poverty, how do you expect them to construct this road? How do you expect them to get themselves involved in? You don't understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. In my community, they asked us to come outside and said, okay, we don't have lights. Let us start contributing for transformer. And everybody was like, how did I want to give you money? How do you want me to? So I don't understand how you want them to get involved when they are still trying to feed themselves, when they are still trying to come up financially.
Okay, first and foremost, let me explain to you to say that order may come, and I will tell you circumstances by which order may come. For instance, you can't want to lay a pipe-borne water across a road without a permit. There is an agency that is authorized to do it, because once the roads are damaged, you need to fix it back. So, and then when you are drawing a pipe across the road, for instance, you don't know what other facilities that are right under the road that you are doing that will affect. For instance, there might have been a cable that may be electrifying. So every society is governed by rules and regulations. So you may not, if you want to do anything, you want to do an amendment on your house, you want to do some remodeling, you need to go and take a permit on physical planning. The problem we have today is physical urban degradation, whereby every physical planning regulations are not obeyed. That's why we have a lot of building collapse. Even when they say stop order, they will go ahead. Some build and construct things overnight. Weekend, people don't come to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They rush to do it. So that explains that the order may come, but the order may not just come because the visitors coming. And then to also say that people who have not been able to feed themselves, how do they participate in communal development? God forbid. If there is an armed robber attack, you don't need to belly full before you cry. Everybody will shout. So I need the neighbor's help. So we're not talking about, everything is not about finance, it's not about money. You understand what I'm saying? Life is never not entirely about money. We're talking about being your neighbor's keepers. You are talking about extending what you have to others. If you have a borehole in your house, put a tap in front of the house for others to benefit. So it's not about whether you are poor or you are rich. It's about the interest, service, communal relationship.
Right. I think that's really answers, because it's not just about that. I think what Mr. Kwa was talking about earlier is it involves getting government to do what they need to do too. You know, especially that in particular, because I don't expect that, you know, we should be buying transformers. You know, I know it happens, but we shouldn't be. And if we can get to a point where I've sat in this place where I've seen some areas where they came together and fought the authority to a standstill.
When a road is being awarded to Mr. A, at the end of the duration, and Mr. A should be well known to the community, because it's not spirit that has been awarded to. It's Mr. A. So Mr. A, people should know that Mr. A is in charge of their money. Mr. A is the one that abandoned the road, so that at the end of the next election, Mr. A will not be allowed to be voted in again.
So advocacy is very, very important. And then mobilization. This is what we want to do. And everybody will come, will discuss it thoroughly, and then say, this is the way we are going to present this matter before the go. And I think that is one of the things that is happening, that we are not succeeding in community development. Sit down, articulate your issues, your concerns, your priorities, get it well documented, articulated, and then make a presentation to the authorities, because you don't have that final
What about
say.
if you are misrepresented by your own representatives?
Then it's your fault. You are not supposed to. Okay.
So you can recall them in law.
Yeah.
But what about even the advocacy? So, for example, there are several groups that advocate. And then after a while, we've seen it happen on many, many issues in the country. When after a while, then those people become the ones that are collecting money on behalf of the community, and nobody sees anything. I mean, we know these things now.
You know,
So,
there was
yes.
something that happened at the time when they wanted a particular flyover. And so for people to get this thing down to, for government to realize, somebody went and stationed camera every day. And so it doesn't occur often, but there were few instances where a car knocked somebody down. And so they now presented the film and brought it to the government. And government had no option, that immediately they started doing something. So some of this knowledge is very, very important.
Right.
Good day, everyone. My question is a kind of a way forward. Now, from all I've heard so far from our guests on the show today, they make me to understand that community development has a lot to do with the government and the people, a kind of relationship. Now we talk of relationship. Most of the community cannot get direct to the government. So I'm suggesting like a way forward. If the government, now I'm using a road as a case study. I don't know who is familiar with Alabado area, where a construction was given to a road constructor to construct the road, and you discover that one side of the road was done and the right side of the road was not done. Now, if there's a good relationship between the government and the community, you discover that at the end of the day, when this road was not constructed, at least somebody would have come up and said, okay, I can get to the government, I can talk to them a way forward, or they can be who to be held responsible. If situation like that occur in future. So the government, I'm looking for a way forward where the government can elect a kind of body, a kind of force, that when situation like that is given, because we know that every community are levied with certain money that is allocated to different community for development. And when these development are not met at the end of the day, who should we hold responsible? Who should the government hold responsible that this set of people were given the job and we're not done?
What would be your, I mean, you're going to be in the heart of it in Abuja. And certain things I think are important that will change. For you in particular, what would you want to do, you know, along these lines that might make a big difference or some difference in the area of, you know, development from community out?
You see, my first area of focus is to look at a curriculum design for our education. I'm going to look at that bill. The kind of curriculum we still operate today is the Hopoloi type of curriculum that was given to us by our colonial masters. Go ye and underdevelop thy country. If you read the book by Albert Lutuli, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, you will understand what I'm saying. Our graduates are not employable. There must be graduate re-employability scheme. There must be a curriculum redesign to ensure that at every semester, there is an entrepreneurial development skill that everybody must undergo. At the course of your 4-year program or 3-year program or 6-year program, you must have been able to develop a skill that will make you to even be able to not to look at government for employment. Today we pay so much money to uneducated mechanics, uneducated mistress, all kind of things. So I want to look at that as part of a curriculum design for our institutions so that our graduates can become much more independent and quite employable.
Would that include vocational training? Because
exactly.
Especially at rural level.
Exactly.
Because even tailoring is a noble and specialized skill. So how do we get better quality tailors, masons,
those are things
carpenters,
I'm talking,
plasterers?
That's why I said employability skills. So
that also includes, for example, because the example she gave, if you don't have machines. So for example, if you have hubs, like Surulere is a hub for fashion. Yeah. There's the Yoruba College of Tech is near there. Yeah. Shouldn't there be like an industrial backbone in that area too? That can be PPP.
Once we are doing that, we must also be able to create an enabling environment by way of bills and motions to ensure that there is also what is called there is also one community, one product. I was in not Singapore. I was in one of these countries, the one close to Singapore.
Thailand, Malaysia.
Malaysia.
Yeah.
I was in Malaysia. When the governor asked me to go and look at how to set up a rural botanical park, and I was there, I saw a botanical park that existed for 152 years. And what were we trying to do? We're trying to develop a botanical park that will specialize in producing herbs that will treat malaria. That I ended up, before I left, to set up a rural botanical park in Igbodu, in Ikoseji. It exists till tomorrow. So what we're trying to say is that there must also be a backup of how do we ensure that these products or these people have the capacity in terms of infrastructure to lag on, which is what we are saying. Establishing industrial park, establishing the farm settlements must come back.
I like, because slogans are easy in the head.
Yeah.
That idea of one community, one product. If you scale that across the country,
You see, for me, I already have about 6 bills that I'm already preparing. I've not been sworn in, that I'm already thinking about. So if we all have mission of going there, the essence of lawmaking is to make society better. So, but I just pray God gives me all the enablement to be able to see through some of the ideas that I have. I've shared some of those ideas in public eye, which of course they are part of my secret document.
But Honorable.
But all the same, if I'm doing it for it would be a place to fly the kite.
Right. Send those ideas to us. When you were saying, I was thinking, I really pray with you that you have all the enablements you need, health and all of that. But you guys are well paid. You have money. They pay you well.
Well, so, I'm not there yet. I've not been sworn in. When they say they pay people well, let me tell you, nobody goes there as a pauper. Before I'm elected, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an academic, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a scriptwriter, I'm a journalist, I'm a publisher, I'm everything. So, I was not just a Mr. Nobody. So, my earnings, even before I go there, I understand, I know it. So, I don't know how much they're going to pay me, but it's beyond the payment.
Okay, I just wanted to make that point because
it's beyond the payment.
It's a mischievous point at the end of back of my head.
It's not the money. It's the service. How much can anybody pay you for this service you are rendering?
Priceless.
It's priceless.
But I would still like to be paid. Thank you very much. And it's on that note that we're going to leave the conversation here. Remember that our conversations always continue. If you have more questions or answers or pointers, you can send them to us, not just the audience, you can send them to us, those of you watching from home. You know what our social media platforms are, and we will keep the conversation going. This is the Public Eye, and our desire is for a prosperous Nigeria. We'll see you again next time.